Hi, my name's Peter Tyner, and I've been working with this great new process for me. It's actually a very ancient technique of metal casting called cuttlefish casting, but I've been working with it for about 4 months now, and I've generated this jewelry here, and I wanted to share it with you and kind of show you the process in which I've been working with. Here's some cuttlefish bones that I wanted to show you. I've got different types here. Basically, these are the larger cuttlefish bones. And on the actual shell itself, it has a really hard surface that's on the top of the fish. And on the underside, it has a very soft area. And that's the part that we carve into. You'll see I'll be doing that in just a minute. After you've selected your cuttlefish bones, you want to prepare them for your carving. And so what you need to do is flatten the inside of the soft tissue of the cuttlefish. So that part you carve in. So what you do is you begin to rub the cuttlefish bones together, and you can see that they start to produce this little dust, and that's the reason why I'm wearing a respirator right here. So after we've flattened out the shells a little bit, you'll probably want to make them even a little bit more uniform fitting together. So what I do also is sand the cuttle shell kind of in a circular motion on a flat surface like this and kind of wear it down evenly. And you can see how nice and flat it becomes. You want to do that with both sides. And this will get you a good surface to carve into. So once we've sanded the shells and made a good match of the two pair, what we need to do now is cut them off, trim them up, so that we can work with them as a complete unit. So I've finished cutting and getting these two pieces to fit together nicely. Now, one of the unique things that I do in my work is I make two-sided designs. Just like a coin that has a front and back, I think your pendant or your jewelry should have two sides at least that you're working with too. So I've come up with a system to register the two sides so that they fit together perfectly. So what I've learned to do with this is to make little marks on the shellfish here on the edges so that when you put them back together, they fit just like you had them when you originally did your lines. So my goal is to be able to stick my design down into the shell and then perfectly match it to the other side. I've found using double sticky tape is a really nice little tool to help you center the design onto the shell and then be able to place it on the reverse side without anything moving. So what I do is I use my double sticky tape and I stick that little design right in the middle of the shell and then trace it out, which I'm going to do right now. Now what I want to be able to do is completely duplicate this design on the other side. So I have one piece of sticky tape on one side. I'm going to put a little bit bigger piece of tape on the other side. And as I put the two halves together very carefully, just how I drew those lines, and put my shape together and give it a good press. Press, press. Open it up And there I can start to draw on the back side the same design. And when I put these two shapes together, when I actually go and do the pour, they will be perfectly matched. So this has really helped me to create a two-sided cuttlefish project. Turns out really nice. So this is where you actually start drawing and carving your design into the cuttlefish shell itself. And I'm using these dental tools. They have all kinds of different shapes that make different kinds of marks. So I've completed the carving of the ammonite pretty much at this point. And now what I'd have to do is carve the other half of the design as well. So I'll have a front and back to it. And what you need to do is give some release lines so that that gas can allow for an even pour. So I'm carving these little lines into it, and in fact I'm going to put the top part here where the actual metal gets poured. So I have the two halves ready to go. They've been carved out, and I've put my little release lines, and I have my little pour area too. Now what I have to do is put these two sides together and wire them up so that I can make this pour. So what I do is I line them up so my marks are matching as I made at the beginning of the project there. And I hold it together and wire them up. So you can just take, I've got 24 gauge wire here, and I'm just wrapping it up like this, twisting them together, because we're going to pour some hot silver in there, and it's got to be a good tight unit. I found that making like little turns in the wire kind of tightens it up and makes it so it creates a good bond for the metal to go into. So we are ready to pour some silver, and you'll see this piece very soon. What I like about the whole cuttlefish process is you really don't need a lot of supplies to do this work. You can see a couple of dental tools, a couple of fish bones, an idea or two, and away you go. It's really fun, and you don't need a lot of supplies to do this. But you do need a torch to get that metal liquid. So I'm going to get this thing fired up, and we'll get this thing cast right now. It usually takes about a minute, couple of minutes to get the silver up to pouring temperature, which is 1641 degrees. It's starting to liquefy at this point. You can see we're getting real liquid now with the silver. I'll put a little bit of flux on top just to clean it up. And I'm going to get it nice and hot. And you give it a pour. And there she be. You can see the metal is still very hot at this point, and you can see it start to burn out the cuttlefish. You can only use these shells once, and it completely burns out the inside. But this is the second life that you're giving the fish as your future little art piece. So I'm going to let this cool down for a couple of minutes because it's still very hot, and then I'll open it up and we can check it out and see what it looks like. Okay, so a few minutes have gone by. It's still really hot. Mind you, we poured it at 1600 degrees, so I have to be careful here, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut the wires apart and open this shell up, and you can see what the silver looks like and at this stage. You can see it's pretty much a burned out shell in there, and our little design is right here. I'm going to go ahead and wash off all that ash and so forth, but you can see our little project looks pretty good at this point. So I just washed off all the ash from our shell that we just poured it in, and I was trimming off some of the little vent lines that are left from the casting, as you can see. The rest just has to be polished and cut. I'm going to cut the button off at the top. I can reuse this silver in my next shape, so you never waste or lose anything really. And I'll just cut the top off, put a nice little clasp on the top of it, polish it up, get this thing shining and looking pretty like it should. So here's a look at what the pieces are finished. You can see what it was before and now what it looks like afterward. I put all the finishing polish to it, put the clasp on top, and it turns out to be a beautiful piece of jewelry. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and checking out the work along the way. Thank you very much.